Freshman Democrat socialist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the author of the Green New Deal, and now questioning if people should stop having children for the sake of saving the planet. Watch.
There's scientific consensus that the lives of children are going to be very difficult, and it does lead, I think, young people to have a legitimate question. You know, is it okay to still have children? Also, just this basic moral question, like, what do we do? And even if you don't have kids, there are still children here in the world, and we have a moral obligation to them, to leave a better world for them.
Joining me now, President Trump's 2020 senior advisor for the campaign, Lara Trump. Good to see you.
Hi.
Welcome back. So her argument is that because climate change is so daunting, that you might not want to have children, and she understands how people would feel that way.
Well, let's start out by saying she began this whole video series by pouring herself a glass of wine. So maybe that played into kind of the rambling, a little bit of nonsense
She's
we
making
heard
like
there.
Vegetarian chili or something. It's like, doesn't everyone across America just set up the phone and start talking into it while you're making dinner?
I mean, I don't know that anybody can put a whole lot of weight into this. It's a little bit crazy. And, you know, our birth rate is going down in this country right now. So by her possibly encouraging people against having children, listen, you don't want the birth rate to get too low. It's actually very detrimental to a country in the future. So I don't think we can give her a whole lot of credit for much here, but just something to tack on to the list of, I guess, kind of nonsensical things that she does sometimes say.
Yeah, I mean, she's railing on plastic bags as well. And as you put, I just think it's an unoptimistic sort of outlook.
Yeah.
I mean, Americans love to,
kids
have your kids, create the next generation. But obviously she feels like there might be some danger involved in that. Here is Senator Dianne Feinstein, who was confronted by some small children who wanted to convince her that she also needed to get on board with the Green New Deal. Watch this.
The government is supposed to be for the people and by the people and all for the people.
What's interesting about this group is I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what I'm doing. You come in here and you say it has to be my way or the highway.
Oh, wow.
I don't even know what to say about that. It's so funny.
It sounds like she's lecturing them.
She was not happy.
Listen, but actually what you see there is a little bit scary, Martha, because what is happening in this country is that our kids are being indoctrinated with all this nonsense. The Green New Deal, a new study just said it would cost $92 trillion, that if every single family in this country paid $600,000, it would barely cover the cost of it. I don't know about you, but that is a little outrageous, and I don't think anyone is going to get behind that. So now the kids are on top of it. I don't actually know what I would have said to them if they'd have confronted me. So I guess
like, you just wait a minute. Hold on. I'm used to that. I've been doing this for 30 years. Don't tell me how to do my job. And speaking of doing your job, one of your jobs is to make sure they're raising a lot of money for the Trump campaign.
Yes.
Politico headline says that the Trump campaign lacks a strategy to win in 2020, despite the fact they've raised $130 million in the last year. What do you say to them?
Oh, that is such nonsense. First of all, I will say our campaign manager, Brad Parscale, is doing an incredible job. We are light years, Martha, ahead of where we were at the same point in the campaign for 2016 that we are today. We are very organized. We have boots on the ground. We have our state directors falling into place. Everything is in perfect place. And the best part is the president is doing, again, such a good job. I always say it, but a good job for us at the campaign. So our job is going to be easy.
So Joe Biden, we're still waiting to hear whether or not Joe Biden's going to get into the race. But Washington Times reporting today that he's looking at creating a coalition that looks a lot like the coalition that elected your father-in-law. Men, people with high school educations, in many cases, older voters, a coalition that we saw in parts of Western Pennsylvania and Michigan, parts of Ohio. What do you say to that? I mean, is Joe Biden the one that concerns you when you look at 2020?
You know what? Joe Biden was in there with President Obama for 8 long years, and we saw a whole lot of nothing happen during the Obama administration. I am not concerned about Joe Biden. I'm not concerned about anybody that I've seen get in the race so far. The reality is people want results in this country, and they're getting them delivered by our current president, Donald Trump, who is on his way overseas to have the second summit with Kim Jong-un to possibly denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. Those are things you can't ignore when you're talking about electing a president or re-electing a president. Joe Biden cannot say those
Well, let me ask you about that, because the last time they had the summit, President Trump came back and said, it's happening. You know, a tremendous victory. They're going to denuclearize. He promised me that this is what was going to happen. And now he's heading over there and he's essentially saying, as long as there are no nuclear tests, we feel like that's a big win. I mean, the expectation has changed.
That is a huge win. When is the last time they had a nuclear test? When have they sent missiles over Japan? You have not seen any of this happen since that initial summit. And nobody thought that this would change overnight. And listen, I'm no strategist on this, but I can tell you I feel a lot safer about the place we're in with North Korea thanks to President Trump than I did 4 years ago. That is for sure. So listen, nobody knows what's going to happen. We're obviously dealing with a leader in Kim Jong-un who is very unpredictable. But you know what? Nobody has been able to do what President Trump has done. And as much as they try to argue against it, the mainstream media, the Democrats, they cannot argue with the fact that you have, again, not seen any nuclear testing. You haven't seen any missiles. So we're getting somewhere.
What about Venezuela? Just quickly, you know, there's a lot of Mike Pence, the vice president, just on his way back from there, a lot of concern. And the president seems to be standing very strongly by Juan Guaido. But this could get ugly.
Well, I think what people need to remember when you're talking about Venezuela is when you have people who are running for president in 2020 advocating for socialism, Venezuela is a perfect example of what we do not want to happen in the United States. And actually, the RNC just released a great video detailing the dangers of socialism. People on average have lost 24 pounds in Venezuela. 90% of the population lives below the poverty level. It's very dangerous. It's very upsetting. But yes, we stand by the Venezuelan people. And I think the president and vice president have been great in showing their support.
Lara Trump, thanks again. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by.